It's music theory. Online, let's learn some theory. Online, by watching modules. Online, with music theory. Online.
Hi everybody. In our last module we talked about time signatures and how time signatures organize our music into measures. The measures are always the same number of beats, and a bar line is what separates our measures. We talked about simple time and how simple time always has a 2, a 3, or a 4 on the top of the time signature, and how the bottom number is telling you how many beats are in each measure of music. The beat is your background. The beat doesn't change. So if you're in 4/4 time, your beat is always 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That never changes. The rhythm is any other combination of notes. So the rhythm on your slide that you're looking at is this. In each measure, the rhythm must equal the correct number of beats as indicated by the time signature. So as long as you have the equivalent of 4 quarter notes in each measure, you can use any other combination of notes to make up the rhythm. I'm going to play this for you, and I'm going to keep the beat in my left hand, and the rhythm will be in my right hand. So remember, the beat never changes. The rhythm can be any combination of notes. One of the things that becomes very important is how you group your notes together. How you group your notes depends on the time signature. So if you're in duple time, remember duple time means you have the number 2 on the top. So that would be 2/4, 2/8, 2/2. You're going to group your 16th notes together by the beat in groups of 4. So you see how we have 4/16 and 4/16. The 8th notes are always going to be grouped by the beat in groups of 2. The grouping of notes is very important in music. It makes it much easier for you to read the music if the notes are consistently grouped the same way. In duple time, for example in 2/4, your 16th notes would always be grouped by the beat, which means that they'd be in groups of 4. Your 8th notes are also grouped by the beat, and they'd be in groups of 2. In triple time, or in 3/4 time, you're going to group all your 8th notes and 16th notes according to the individual beats. On the slide that you're looking at right now, we're in 3/4 time, and you can see every single beat. The quarter note is 1 beat, the 2 8th notes make your 2nd beat, and the 4 16th notes make your 3rd beat. Then in the next measure, 4 16th notes make 1 beat, so you can see you have 1, 2, 3 beats, each beat individually grouped. And in the last measure, an 8th note and 2 16th notes equal a quarter note, so that's 1 beat, and then the 2 16ths and 8th note make your 2nd group, and then you have a quarter note. If I was to play this, I'm going to count the beats out loud, and then you'll hear the rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. When you're in quadruple time, you're going to group your 16th notes in groups of 4 that will make 1 beat. The 8th notes can either be beamed in groups of 2 or in groups of 4. So you see on your slide, in 4/4 time, you could do all 4 8th notes together, or you could do 2 8th notes and 2 8th notes. Be careful if you decide to use 4/8 notes, because you couldn't use 4/8 notes and join the second and the third beats together. Okay? Really, you're better to use 1/8 notes. Then you don't have to worry a whole lot about whether or not you're tying the second and the third beats together, which you're not allowed to do. Notice here the 16th notes make one beat, so the rest of it is very similar. And my rule would be always show your 1/8 notes as groups of 2. This shows you some more examples of grouping of notes. You see at the top we have 4/16ths. So when we have 4/16th notes, you can group all 16th notes together. You can also group the 1/8 notes to the 16th notes. Same with 9/16ths. You see how everything is grouped together? That's because when you're talking 16th note, it's a pretty quick beat. It's much easier if you group your whole measure together. In 3/8, do you see how all of the notes are beamed together? Because again, in 3/8, the 1/8th note is quite a fast beat, so it's easier just to group everything together. In 4/8, do you notice how you can see 1, 2, and then 3 and 4? Whenever you're in quadruple time, whether it's 4/8, 4/4, 4/2, you can never join the second and third beats together. Never, ever, 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 ever join the second and third beats together. So when you're in quadruple time, what you can do is you can divide the measure in half and have half of your measure grouped together and then the other half of your measure grouped together. And that's what this last example is showing you. Here we have some examples that we have to work out. We're in 4/16. And do you remember when we saw the 16 on the bottom? It meant that you could group your whole measure together. So I've done the first example with the 1/8th note and the 2/16th notes grouped together. You could group your 2/8 notes together, and you could group all 4/16 notes together, and you could group your 16th note and 1/8th note all together at the end. The same with 3/8. The first example I've done where we've joined all 3/8 notes together. There's a mistake in the next example. You see there's only 2/8 beats there. See that? That's an oops. In the third measure, you could group all of those 16th notes together. In C, in the first example, in 4/8, remember I said you could never join the second and the third beats together? So that's why you would have to do 2/8 notes and then 2/8 notes. In this next measure, you could have your 2/16 notes and 1/8 note grouped together, and then your last 2/8 notes grouped together. That way you're dividing that measure in half, and you're not joining 2 and 3 together. In the third measure, you could group 4/16 notes together and 4/16 notes together. And that way you're not joining 2 and 3 together. And I've done the last example for you. 4/16 notes are together, and then 2/8 notes are together. Here's some more examples for you. In 3/4 time, it's really best if you can see each beat. So you see your first beat is a quarter note, your second beat is 2/8 notes, and your third beat is 2/8 notes. In the next measure, your 1/8 note and 2/16 notes make one beat. Then you have your 4/16 notes grouped together, and then your quarter note all by itself. Notice in the last measure, you can see each of the beats. 2/8 notes together, 2/8 notes together, and 2/8 notes together. On the next example, in 4/4 time, you have quarter note, not a problem, and then 4/16 notes are grouped together, that makes your third beat, and 4/16 notes grouped together make your fourth beat. And then you can either group your 4 eighth notes together, or you can do 2 eighth notes and 2 eighth notes. But you can't join the next eighth note because then you'd be joining the second and the third beat together. So your third beat is your eighth note and 2 16th notes. And then your fourth beat is 4 16th notes. On this next example, we have a 3/8 time signature, so we have 3 eighth notes in each measure. And that means we can group all 3 eighth notes together. In the next measure, we have 2 16th notes, an eighth note, and an eighth note, and they can be all beamed together. In the third measure, we have 4 16th notes and an eighth note, and they can be all beamed together. In the last measure, because we have a rest at the end, it's really better if you keep your eighth notes separate. This can be a really confusing concept to understand, how the notes are grouped together. And really, it takes lots and lots of practice and going over the rules a few more times. And as I said, lots and lots of practice. So practice grouping your notes, and then we can move on next time to something else new and different. Have a super duper time, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
It's music theory online. Let's learn some theory online by watching modules online with music theory online.